on Proof, Respect, and Fools by Thom Cantrall. "Show us the proof," the fellow named Rick demanded. 60 years of research and you don't have an ounce of proof," said another vitriolically. "Thus is the life and the world of he who investigates and researches the Sasquatch people." I would like to begin by stating that these and all other ilk are dead wrong. If I had no proof, I would long since have given up in disgust. I have little in the way of patience, and do not suffer long periods without positive results well. The subtle difference is, I have sufficient proof for me. If that is not enough for these others, I'm sorry, but that is not my problem, is it? It has to be remembered that no one can prove anything to another. We can only offer evidence. It is up to each individual to determine what level of evidence provides proof in their own mind. That level will be different in each person. Hence, our legal juries are made up of 12 of our peers. Why? Because of that very tenet. Each of the 12 will require a different level of evidence to be convinced of the guilt or innocence of the individual. And it requires all 12 to agree in order to convict, does it not? Evidence comes to us in various classes, some more desirable than others. It is essential that we understand this and that we treat each class with the respect due it. The first and most desirable evidence is empirical evidence. This form of evidence is repeatable and measurable. I found a footprint that measured 15 inches in length and made a cast of that footprint. This is something we can measure and test. Anyone can come forth and do their own measurements. It is quantifiable and measurable. The only thing to be suspect here is the reputation of the person casting the print as evidence. Is he reliable, or does he have a reputation for creating false evidence? If Ray Wallace, the infamous track hoaxer from the late 1950s in Northern California, presented it, I would immediately question its authenticity. If Dr. Jeff Meldrum presented it, I would accept it without question. The second class of evidence is eyewitness evidence, what people saw. This class has to be scrutinized diligently, for 5 different people witnessing an event may well see it from 5 different viewpoints, and certainly from 5 different personal backgrounds. Some years ago, a psychological test was done with a group of inner-city ghetto youths, wherein they were shown a teddy bear and asked to identify it. The vast majority of these children identified it as a rat. Why? Because they knew what rats were. They lived with them. They had no experience with a teddy bear, never having seen one. Therefore, it becomes imperative to determine the biases and the teachings of the eyewitness. Were they scared by the vision? Were they calm? And if so, why were they not frightened? Level of education becomes important in many cases, as well, as that can determine the witness's level of comprehension of that which they are seeing. The third class of evidence is anecdotal evidence. This basically is a story. The mountain was really steep, and while we didn't see anything, we heard what we knew was Again, we have to rely on the reputation of he telling the story. Is he reliable? Or is he prone to not letting the truth stand in the way of a good story? This class of evidence is highly suspect because it does rely so heavily on the proclivities of the person relating the anecdote. The fourth form of evidence is hearsay. and this is the least reliable form. In fact, it is so unreliable as to not being allowed in court cases. Basically, hearsay is just that, what one heard and is repeating. My brother-in-law said is a form of this type. My neighbor told me that the thing she saw was very large and, as can be seen, the main reason this is inadmissible in most cases is because the individual source of the statement is not available for cross-examination. All we have to rely on is on that portion related by the person related the statement. These four classes of evidence are presented here in the order of their acceptability, with empirical evidence being the most reliable and hearsay evidence being the least reliable, even to the point of being unacceptable on its face. This said, is there any good Sasquatch evidence? We have excellent videos. We have superb photos, neither of which will ever be proof, if for no other reason that the editing software is just too good. Argument rages until all reason is lost and insanity prevails. Witness the Patterson-Gimlin film. A minute of film that has sparked a half-century of bitter rancor. Yet the professionals, those who know costuming, those who know film and cameras, those who know the intricacies of making video features, and those who understand anatomy, physiology, and anthropology are ignored, while a fool brother-in-law is cited ad infinitum ad nauseum. And my brother-in-law is a total idiot. The consensus among all these experts is it would have been impossible to create a suit in 1967 capable of doing the things that film showed. That the material required simply did not exist at that time. But that brother-in-law said it was a man in a suit. So that's what we'll believe. Insanity? I think perhaps. As evidence, I have a plethora of footprints. I have structures I have vetted to my satisfaction to be authentic. I have an audio, oral language recorded, vetted by a major university and expounded upon by a professional cryptolinguist. I have physical evidence of a written language that is found across North America in profusion. There are casts of butt prints showing anatomical features such as labia, anus, hair follicles, and even scrotum images. We have examples of defecate of immense size that does not match anything known or tested. We have hair samples that match nothing known to man. But my brother-in-law says it's a myth, so we believe him. And he's an idiot. These are examples of hard physical evidence, things we can feel, examine, and test. From here, we can move to the slightly more esoteric. We can venture into the realms of the subjective, testimony. In all cases of testimony, the underlying necessity is that the person testifying be believable. He has to have a degree of credibility to be trusted. One need only watch a lawyer in cross-examination to understand the degree of importance to this tenet. Let a testimony from someone be of questionable character, and that fact alone will negate all value of any such testimony in very short order, without the most special of circumstances being in order. In conclusion, let me say that yes, there is solid evidence, ample certainly enough to get a conviction in a court of law, but proof is a very personal thing with each of us, requiring his own level and class of evidence to be required. Even as in a court of law, there are those who will never be convinced. But, unlike that court of law, We cannot dismiss that type as unsuitable to sit in judgment. Alas, our idiot brother-in-law will hold sway. One very negative thing the internet, especially sites like Facebook or Twitter, has done is to give voice to idiots. Those who heretofore had to stand on a soapbox in a park to make their message heard now have a ready-made audience, and they do make the most of it. Beware of fools in large numbers. Thank you.